I can't control that these women said that. And I know plenty of women personally that would never say something like that. Women could focus on that and then just never date men. So I do see that their side of it. But I'm just saying that if that's perpetuated and then like this was perpetuated, then what we'd have all lesbians and then guys that just hated women.
That narrative, right, that men are currently being fed. And there's reasons why they're being fed that narrative, which is because it gets views, is because it gets attention, is because you feed someone's anger, you feed their insecurities and their weakness, and you give them a reason to believe that they are the victim and it's not their fault. And people are going to love you for that. They're going to love to eat that up. They want the negative emotions.
That is the actual problem.
But the problem is, just like you said, it only takes a small minority of bad actors in order to create an entire perception for the whole, right? So just like the small portion of bad actors that are men that are acting this way make it very hard to have empathy for the wider population of men that are struggling with some of these issues, and the small population of bad actors that are women that are reposting this murderer and saying good things about him make it really difficult for the large population of women that wouldn't do that or don't think that, who are saying with the bear thing, which again, still not the best thing, but a real problem that men can be dangerous and unknown wild cards, right? So it hurts the cause. And it only takes a small amount of people to hurt the cause for the larger cause, which is just
well, that's
the
if
problem.
You allow those people to be the voice of the problem.
Which, whether you allow it or not, that's just, it's
yeah, but
like
you can't control other people. That's what I'm trying to say is that like
people perceive it though.
I can't control that these women said that. And I know plenty of women personally that would never say something like that.
Right. Exactly.
But we can't stop those women. Besides, that's why you and I are here right now, is to try to stop women from saying and doing things like that and to heal themselves.
Yeah.
And for men to do the same.
Exactly.
But it's just, I don't feel like it's a good idea to talk about this and be like, well, see, guys this is gonna back up their cause, without saying that this is gonna back up their cause because they're choosing to pick what they want to back up their cause. Because on both sides, there are plenty of resources and things to watch, including this podcast, that shows you that there's not people like that out there.
Exactly.
And still people comment on our stuff and they're like, they say the same old stuff. But we can't, the only thing we can do is try to bring to light the actual correct way to handle all of this.
Right.
And people should look for resources like ours that are trying to make people and better together. And to support men and women together rather than divide them. Because that's all that we've just talked about for this first 20 something minutes.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. Yeah, that's exactly the problem.
And that if we keep perpetuating, this is going to give men ammunition to hate women, or on the other side be like, this is going to give women ammunition to hate men.
Right.
We're going to get further away from each other rather than together. And that's why I brought up the fact that men murder women, because it's like, okay, women could focus on that and then just never date men.
Sure. Yeah.
And I would be like, okay, that kind of ish makes sense because you're afraid you're going to get murdered.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't even be like, that doesn't really make sense. But they don't do that. Like,
right.
They
for
don't.
The most part. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not a majority of people are doing that.
No.
So I'm just saying that, men also should not just be cherry picking all these things that are perpetuating their mindset, which is pushing them further away from women, which is not what they want deep down.
Right. Well, the equivalent is as you hear the horror stories of men end up having bad divorces and whatever, they think the woman gets bored, or it's not true, but whatever horror story. There are some horror stories from it. And then men are like, no one should ever men should never get married.
Right. Which they're perpetuating that more than women. Do you ever see women in the comments like, men will murder you? There's going to be some, but do you see as many divorce comments of men being like, don't get married versus women like, don't go near a man?
Right. Right.
And to be honest, I'd rather get a divorce than murdered personally. But, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
I get it. I get that
Yeah.
like men go through like that is something that they're afraid of.
Right.
And that's like the flip side. I understand that. And I understand because personally, no matter how crazy a situation gets, like people should not be harming each other either financially or emotionally or physically in any way. So I do see that their side of it. But I'm just saying that if that's perpetuated and then like this was perpetuated, then what we'd have all lesbians and then guys that just hated women and murdered everybody.
And part of it is the algorithm, right? Because look, if you post some wholesome content, right? As we know, right, with our podcast, because we don't say a lot of stuff that's, it's not necessarily, I mean, it doesn't mean that people don't like it. It doesn't mean that it's good. It just is not going to get as shared and it's not going to get as, but if you post some nasty comment, you say something nasty about women, you say something nasty about men, that bubbles to the top. Right. And then
because
it starts
dramatic and,
Yeah. That's why all these topics that are really divisive end up being at the top and everyone hears about them. And that's what forms the.
Well, and it perpetuates the divide too.
Right.
But that's also why we're here. And I mean, I can only speak for women. Like, I personally like the wholesome content. Like, there's plenty of content creators that I follow that are like married and have kids and they're just like, it's their everyday life. I think that is coming back a little bit, at least like on the woman's side, that like women are kind of, gravitating towards that kind of stuff, which I'm not saying that they still don't like the drama stuff because there's keeping up with the Kardashians and whatnot. But I feel like it's harder for men. And I feel like this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because you constantly like are thinking about, okay, well, I want to make this, but like this is what gets views, but I don't want to talk about that. I'm better than that. So it's like, I feel like it's kind of worse for men.
It is.
That they only want to listen to some radical an idea that they can now adopt and then fuel their hatred and fuel their anger.
Exactly.
And I think that's maybe part of the problem, which maybe this whole episode should just turn into like whatever we're talking about here that we could classify. But men have more anger than women. And that's also probably too why women will still go and date guys, even though they see this woman got murdered and this woman got murdered or whatever. They're still going to be like, okay, well, not all guys are like that. So I'm going to try to find a good guy, But guys, like their anger, and women will get angry too at men. I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
there's
but
a
it's not
versa.
the same. It's not like
the explosion.
It doesn't define their existence.
Yeah, their identity.
Right.
But men, these really angry men, and then they keep watching this these like really radical ideas in these YouTube videos and stuff. And then that fuels that anger to the point where they do become murderers some of the time because they're so angry.
Right. Well, and that narrative, I mean, do you want to go into the other topic or?
I mean, maybe we should just do this because it's already been like 30 minutes.
I mean, it's good because it's a good discussion, but that narrative, right, that men are currently being fed, right? Again, and there's reasons why they're being fed that narrative, which is because it gets views, is because it gets attention, is because you feed someone's anger, you feed their insecurities and their weakness, and you give them a reason to believe that they are the victim and it's not their fault. And people are going to love you for that. They're going to love to eat that up. They want the negative emotions. But that same narrative that's being fed to men now was the same narrative that was being fed to women when you had the new feminist movement, which is, you go back maybe 10 or 15 years, not to the extreme because we didn't have the internet to the extreme that we do now in social media, but there was a period of time where the same kind of viewpoint that we have of these angry men was the reality of angry women hating men.
But does that make it okay?
It doesn't make it okay. I'm just saying that this is the cycle, right? Because there was the hashtag kill all men and there was all of this stuff that happened.
Which that's just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, exactly. But the same thing happened. The cycle repeats, right? Because basically the resulting backlash from that created this movement where now and then it's going to just flip again, because what's going to happen now as this rises and men are so angry all the time and saying such horrible things about women, women will be like, man, men kind of suck, right? And so it's that cycle repeats. That's how it goes throughout history. Better than